Adventures of Ellen White and the Pioneers. The night the moon was red as blood.
Many people came to hear Mr. William Miller preach. The church was crowded day and night. The people were very serious as they listened to Mr. Miller explain the wonderful verses from the Bible. Ellen was surprised to read all these interesting prophecies in the Bible and to hear them explained so clearly. Mr. Miller had many signs and ways to prove that Jesus was coming again soon. When my son draws a picture for me, I often write the date on it so I can always remember. Most days are quite common days, but some are very special days on which something special happened. Your birthday is a special day, isn't it? Now I'm going to show you a date that has a very special meaning to those who believe and understand the Bible. Something happened on this date that never happened before this time, and it has never happened again. Here's the date, May 19, 1780. That was a long time ago. It's called the Dark Day. That day began just like any other day. The sun came up, the birds began to sing, and the people got up as usual. The fathers went out to milk the cows while the mothers fixed breakfast, and the children went out to do their work before going to school. Some had to feed the chickens, some had to feed the calves, some had to carry in wood so mother could bake bread, and some had to pump water from the well and carry it into the house in a bucket. After breakfast, the children went off to school. The mothers started to wash clothes or bake bread, and the fathers went out to work in the fields or gardens. Everything was just about the same as any other day until about 9 o'clock in the morning, and then the strangest things began to happen. The sky began to get dark and cloudy, and lightning flashed, thunder roared, and heavy black clouds spread over the entire sky. By noontime, it was as dark as it is usually at 9 o'clock at night. No one seemed to realize that one of God's greatest prophecies was being fulfilled just exactly as God had said. Let's turn to Amos 8, verse 9, so we will understand what was happening, even if those people did not. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord, that I will cause the sun to go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in the clear day. The cows out in the pasture came home to the barn. The birds all went to their nests. The chickens went to roost, and the bats flew about as they do at night. The animals and birds thought it was night. But the people knew that night had not come, and they wondered, what was wrong? What is coming? They asked. At school it grew too dark to see the books, and since there were no electric lights in those days, the teacher sent the children home. Some of the children were afraid and began to cry and run, and even the grown-up people were afraid. They could not understand this queer and strange darkness. Men soon came in from the fields. The carpenters left their tools and hurried home, and some people said it must be like a plague of darkness that came upon Egypt. Others said it must be the end of the world. Soon it was so dark that no one could see a thing. People lighted their lamps and candles. Never had they seen a day so dark. What could it mean? Many people wanted the churches open so they could go and pray, and the minister could study the Bible with them. It's too bad, but the only time some people ever go to church is when they get in trouble or too scared, like these people. When nighttime came, it was even worse. Some people were afraid to go outside of their house because of the unusual blackness of the night. And finally the moon came up. But it was not bright and shining, even though it was big and full. Instead, it was dark red. Isaiah 13:10 has some more to say about that unusual darkness. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. And Joel 2 verse 31 says, The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and the terrible day of the Lord come. Some of the people stayed awake all that night, watching and waiting for something terrible to happen. But nothing else happened. The next morning the sun came up, the birds sang, the chickens came running out to be fed, and the cows mooed to be let out of the barn. Everything seemed just as usual. But this unusual happening caused many people to think seriously. Surely, these people said, there must be some reason for the dark day. And there was a reason, a very special reason. When God created the sun and the moon, he said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be there for signs. And when Jesus was here on earth, his disciples asked him, What shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered, The sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. When some of the people studied their Bibles to try and learn what these strange things meant, they found some of these verses, and then they knew that they had seen one of the great signs that must happen before Jesus comes again. This happened a long time ago, but Jesus said there would be other signs to show that his coming was getting even closer. Come and join us next time to hear about the fireworks from heaven.